Good morning, Loma Scholars, teachers, staff, and families. It is Thursday, June 9th. All right, you guys, we are getting down to almost our last week of school. We have 2 more days left this week, and we have next week. Remember that the last day of school, that Friday, is also a minimum day. So Tuesday and Friday next week will both be dismissals at 1:35. Our 6th graders promote on Thursday morning at 9 a.m., and we wish them all of the best with that. There's going to be a lot of fun things happening next week, so let's make sure we focus this week and do our best and that we roar, and then we can celebrate all the fun next week. All right, and speaking of fun next week, Miss Ratcliffe, remember, is going to do something crazy based on you guys meeting your lesson target. Now, the 4 classes that met their lesson goal were Miss Blomers, Miss Giffen, Miss Pedersen, and Miss Shepard. And those 4 got to come up with some ideas to vote on. They came up with 4 ideas. 4 ideas. One is that they could do Miss Ratcliffe's hair, makeup, and clothing that she had to wear all day on the last day of school. 2, throw water balloons at Miss Ratcliffe. 3, put syrup and feathers all over Miss Ratcliffe. And 4 is to come up with challenges for Miss Ratcliffe that she had to say yes to throughout the day. So since those 4 classes were the classes that passed their lesson goals, they are going to get to vote on them, and then I will announce which thing is going to happen to Miss Ratcliffe on the last day of school. So stay tuned for the what that's going to be, and make sure you're here on the last day of school to see it happen. All right, and now it's time for Thinker Thursday.
Anne Frank was born in Frankfurt, Germany on June 12, 1929. Unfortunately, in 1933, Adolf Hitler became the leader of Germany, and he was the leader of the Nazi political party. And because he didn't like Jewish people, he blamed them for many of Germany's problems, and many Jewish people had to flee from Germany. Otto Frank, Anne's father, decided that his family should leave too, and in 1934 they moved to the city of Amsterdam. Anne was only 4 years old at the time. Before long, Anne made new friends and was speaking Dutch and was going to a school in a new country. They felt safe. Unfortunately, in 1939, Germany invaded Poland and World War II had officially begun. Germany had already taken over Austria and Czechoslovakia. They considered moving again, but they decided to stay. But then on May 10, 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands, and the Franks did not have time to escape. Jewish people had to register with the Germans. They weren't allowed to own businesses, have jobs, go to the movies, or even sit on the benches at the park. He had to turn his business over to some non-Jewish friends, and in the midst of all of this, they tried to go on as normal. Anne was only 13 years old at the time. One of the presents for her birthday was a red journal where Anne would write down all of her experiences. It is from this journal that we know about Anne's story today. The Germans began to require all Jewish people to wear yellow stars on their clothing. Some were rounded up and taken to concentration camps. One day the order came that Margot, Anne's older sister, would have to go to a labor camp. Otto, Anne's father, was not going to let this happen. They'd been preparing a place for the family to hide. The girls were told to pack up. They had to wear all their clothes in layers because a suitcase would look too suspicious, and they went to their hiding place. Otto had prepared a secret hideout next to his place of work. The door was hidden behind some bookshelves, and the hideout was small. The first floor had a bathroom and a small kitchen. The second floor had only 2 rooms, one for Anne and Margot and one for her parents. Anne began writing in her journal every day. She titled her journal Kitty, after one of her friends. Each entry in her journal became Dear Kitty. She wrote all things out. She never thought others would be reading it. She wrote about her feelings. She read about books she read, the people around her. And from Anne's diary, all of us can now find out what it was like for her to be living in hiding for years, fearing for her life. The Franks had to be careful not to be caught. They covered all the windows with curtains, and they had to be extra quiet during the day. Soon more people moved in with the Franks. They needed a place to hide too. Anne and her family had been hiding for nearly 2 years. The war was coming to an end, and it looked like the Germans were going to lose. They were starting to have hope that they would be free. However, on August 4, 1944, the Germans stormed into the Franks' hideout. They took everyone captive and sent them to camps. The men and women were separated, and eventually the girls were separated. Unfortunately, both Anne and her sister died of the disease typhus in March 1945, only a month before the soldiers arrived. The only family member to survive the camps was Anne Frank's father, Otto Frank. He returned to Amsterdam and found her diary. He published the diary in 1947, and it is through this work that we know about the story of Anne Frank, who was only as young as many of our students going on to 6th grade are. Anne Frank, Diary of a Young Girl, became a popular book to read throughout the world. So you guys know that even in the most challenging of times, you can make an impact. Just like Anne has made an impact on this world through what she went through and what she wrote about in her diary.
All right, you guys, I hope you have a great rest of the day. Keep roaring, keep persevering, keep working hard. And now it's time to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.